Um, it's wonderful to see so many old friends as well, people I haven't seen in a good while, and together to explore planting seeds of action. I noticed that my posh name was up on the photograph there, which is William, but I go by the name of Bill usually, or by the name of Pure Blossom of Joy. The natural world has always been a big part of my life, an ongoing love affair, really, starting in an early childhood with a Gerald type fascination with everything that crawls and flies. I've had a love of mountains and wild places that's led me into working with young people in the outdoors and living in wild places such as the Shetland Isles. So this then is a subject that's close to my heart. The earth has sustained me and given me great strength and joy, and I know I'm not separate from the earth. I found Ty's teachings many years ago through reading Joanna Macy and the theory of deep ecology. One of my favorite quotes is, "We're the rocks dancing." Finding a teacher that understood the interconnectedness of all things was like coming home. As Ty says, the beauty of the earth is a bell of mindfulness. I'm a member of the Scottish Interfaith COP Coalition, and I'm still going after the Glasgow COP. Founder of Earth Holders in Edinburgh here, where we practice sitting in the city centre on busy Saturdays to kind of show that there is another way when people are busy shopping. Founder member of the Deep Listening Sangha and a member of the Edinburgh Wild Geese Sangha. So this is my own personal practice, how I cope with that deep love of the earth and cope with what's happening at the moment. And I hope it may help you on your journey on the path. As the Buddha said, don't take my word for it, but put it into practice and see if any of this works for you. So one of the big questions is, how do we face and find strength to turn towards such difficult problems as mass extinction and climate change and all the suffering that entails? And there's a temptation to turn away, to find distractions, to stick our head in the sand. It's a painful thing to face. But more and more, my path overall has been to turn towards as the only way. I recall a recent overheard conversation while cycling. I'm going skiing in Italy next year. Are you going anywhere this year? No. I vowed not to fly again. Oh, I don't think people will change their behaviours. I've got grandchildren. And somewhere in that conversation I heard, we're fighting a war, not climate change. Even harder for me to hear the truth. I was aware I was resisting. Some turned towards and some away. And in terms of what we can do for our planet, what is our motivation? What motivates us? Why do we care? Understanding and finding our strong emotions keep us strong when things get tough. Is our motivation our practice? Is it about alleviating suffering? Is it about social justice and the suffering of the global south? Is it just trying to save what we love? And if we do take any actions, realizing what form those actions may take. Actions can be a thought, it can be a very small change, or it can be life-changing. It's whatever is right for you. With mindfulness, we can find what level of action feels right and when it feels right. Not all of us want or can be activists, though through mindful actions, what we buy or how we travel, what we eat, that makes a huge difference. And facing these difficulties, how do we prevent ourselves from burnout? When faced with such huge global issues, how do we avoid being overwhelmed? I recall a Dharma sharing, a reply to an activist who'd suffered burnout. And they said, if you take the whole world on your own, are you surprised that this happened? Maybe not that compassionate, but true. If we take the whole world on ourselves, it's an impossible task. So we need to support each other. Find ways to use climate change as a spiritual teacher. Now there's a challenge. How can we use what's happening to the earth as a spiritual teacher? Learning how climate change can be a spiritual teacher is something very close to my heart. As a keen naturalist, ornithologist, and with my close connections with nature, I've witnessed and very aware of species collapse. I've witnessed the sad decline of the birds that I love, such as the lapwing or the curlew, or even the house sparrow. When I hear the skylark singing just now, I wonder how long that sound will be the sound of spring, and I suffer. Thai teaches suffering and happiness inter al. Once a disciple asked their teacher, "Where should I look for nirvana?" The Zen master replied, "Right in the heart of samsara." We have to use the suffering of fear or despair or anxiety to create happiness, awakening and insight, to step by step towards healing ourselves and the earth. And thinking about this talk, I was thinking about how human beings react to danger, to adversity. And of course, the fight or flight comes to mind. And apparently freeze is one of them. I never really thought of that, but I suppose it's the rabbit in the headlights. And I guess we all know the adrenaline rush, when that energy comes to us, and anger or fear or anxiety arises. That was okay to deal with a saber-toothed tiger in a cave entrance, but not too good for a huge and complex issue like climate change. We as a species react much more to what's immediate and struggle with long-term issues. Certainly it seems that our world leaders do. We're faced with the option to save the life of a child in front of us or thousands of children in the distant future. Most of us react to save the child in immediate danger. So how do we deal with our inbuilt instinctive reactions? How does our practice of mindfulness help us? We're bombarded with so much information these days. How do we interpret the science, know what is true, distinguish between the doomsayers and the climate deniers to find some form of truth? A Quaker friend of mine, climate expert, said that we had to read all the UN papers and then make up our own minds. Some challenge. Climate anxiety is now recognized by psychotherapists who are already in training to deal with this growing issue. But we have our practice, the Dharma, and wonderful teachers to help. So my first seed of action is self-compassion. If we see the forest fires burning in Australia on our TV screens, islands going underwater, huge glaciers melting, it's only natural to feel angry or anxious or grief or guilt or all these emotions. But we need to be mindful that although we feel these emotions as an immediate response, we don't get caught in them. Like a fish on a hook, we can escape our anger or our fear. That we don't become driven, consumed by the fear or the anger or the guilt, that these emotions don't take us over, don't become the drivers. We're not at our best when we're overwhelmed by these emotions or responses. Our vision becomes distorted. Only with love, compassion, can we see a way forward. So let's be kind to ourselves and water that seed of self-compassion. Compassion protects us. It's okay not to be all right, to recognize that we're struggling. It's also possible to be not okay and okay simultaneously, because there is a you that's always okay, even when you feel you're not. In this dimension, the historical dimension, we may be not okay, but in the ultimate dimension, we are okay. I'm sure Ty would have put that better. We take care of ourselves and take care of each other as well. I really need to emphasize the importance of taking this on together, the importance of sangha. If you take this huge crisis on alone, it will cause you much suffering. I met many activists who are burnt out by taking this on all alone. to be part of what Tai calls communities of resistance, but resistance with love and compassion, not conflict. We can show that there are other ways to live that don't involve conflict or greed or constant growth and expansion, that there is a middle way. To expand our love and compassion for ourselves to a wider circle of love and concern for all beings, all plants, animals, and minerals, for the earth. There's a quote, "Don't let the fools take your seat. Take your seat. Be present and care for yourself. Love yourself. And as you love yourself and care for yourself, that love will move outwards. It will spill out all around you with the fragrance of holiness." By ourselves, we can't mend our climate. We can only love our larger body, this living earth, and take the next healing step. By ourselves, we can't mend our climate. We can only love our larger body, this living earth, and take the next healing step. My second seed is gritty compassion. Gritty compassion is not just the thought or emotion or the sense of compassion, but compassion with action. Sister True Dedication says in Zen and the Art of Saving the Planet, teaching such as the Diamond Sutra helps us to touch the deep realization that we are immediately and intimately bound to the web of life. With the insight of interbeing, we realize that we are never alone, never powerless, and everything we do counts. The smallest actions make us feel empowered and no longer helpless. Like a pebble in the pool, our thoughts and actions go out as ripples beyond what we call ourselves. The more positive ripples we send out, the more they can join with others to become waves or even tsunamis. If we apply mindfulness to all our actions with a focus of compassion for the planet, then what we eat, how we travel, what we buy can all make a difference. And sometimes we have to compromise. Often we need to compromise. This is a complex issue. We need to be mindful of our actions, but also remain compassionate to ourselves. And we need to stay positive. Draw from that wonderful joy and energy that nature, the earth, gives us so freely. And think what you're for. Don't focus on what you're against. I recall doing the work that reconnects at an XR parliamentary camp in Edinburgh. I walked around Arthur's Seat with a group of students, stopping and discussing each stage as we went. The work follows a spiral sequence flowing through 4 stages, beginning with gratitude, then honouring our pain for the world, then seeing with fresh eyes, and finally going forth. The students talked a lot about their gratitude and their pain, but the going forth with a new vision of what they would like to see wasn't there. If we spend all our time on what we don't want, we should not neglect the vision of what we do want. For activists, this can be a challenge, but if we stay focused on what we're for, it's a more positive energy that we send out, a more creative energy, less confrontational, more likely to result in dialogue than in conflict. So be present in this lifetime right now. Be positive and imaginative. Think what I can change. Think how I can change. My third seed is the Bodhisattva seed. How can I alleviate suffering? One of the hardest things to face for me is when people say it's all too late, particularly when young people say it. It's become a growing opinion amongst many who are knowledgeable and concerned about the climate. And to some degree, this is true. Man-made climate change is with us now and will continue to be so for many lifetimes. But this can lead to feelings of being overwhelmed and feeling powerless. There's a feeling that nothing significant that I can do will change it. But when I feel like this, it reminds me of the story of the man putting back the starfish into the sea, a story I now realize that's been with me a long time. As a young man is walking along the ocean and sees the beach on which thousands of starfish have been washed ashore. Further along, he sees an old man walking slowly and stooping often, picking up one starfish after another and tossing each one gently into the ocean. Why are you throwing starfish into the ocean, he asks. Because the sun is up and the tide is going out. If I don't throw them further in, they'll die. But old man, don't you realize there are miles and miles of beach and starfish all along it? You can't possibly save them all. You can't even save 1/10 of them. In fact, even if you work all day, your efforts won't make any difference at all. The old man listened calmly and then bent down and picked up another starfish and threw it into the sea. Made a difference to that one. In this same way, whatever the future holds, with seeds of compassion and with the Bodhisattva vow, we can work to alleviate suffering and not to be overwhelmed by the challenges ahead. When I feel overwhelmed about what the future may hold, and we can only imagine what that future is, I remember the old man. It made a difference to that one. And I've realized I've heard that voice over and over in my life. When faced with challenges, it made a difference to that one. It can be a challenging practice to sit with our grief and despair in this era of climate change, consumerism, species extinction, poverty, environmental injustice of all scales. But as Joanna Macy says, we only mourn what we love. For Joanna Macy, this process of facing pain with courage and honesty is all part of building a network of resilience. By drawing on our understanding of emotions as impermanent expressions of a strong energy available for transformation into positive action. So I draw strength from nature. I face towards and not away. I know I'm not alone. That my actions can make a difference and do matter. I try to stay in the here and now, not get lost in future possibilities. Most of all, I focus on the love and compassion for myself and for the earth, especially when I don't live up to my own high expectations or my immediate emotional responses get the better of me. It's how I get by day and continue my practice. So to summarize, be kind to yourselves and water seeds of self-compassion. Don't get caught in emotions, anger, anxiety, guilt, or grief. It's okay not to be okay. Be kind to yourself. We're not alone. Build sanghas, communities of resistance. Water the seeds of gritty compassion. What can I do? What difference can I make? What changes? Water the bodhisattva seed. Whatever the future brings, I can always work to alleviate suffering. And I'll finish with a smile and a wee bit of joy with a final quote from Riders in the Storm by my friend Alistair McIntosh. And this is typically me because I have always a sense of humor and a smile. And this is both. It has some joy in it, but it also has some profound truth. Never did a doer Scott speak more truly or more joyously than when Private Fraser of the BBC sitcom Dad's Army would declare, "We are doomed, we're doomed. For in our doom is our Dharma." If we fully face the just so of reality, reality will open out to us. Here then is our precious irony. We stand at a time when the world could slip progressively towards barbarism, towards our common fate, or we stand at what could be one giant leap forward in human potential. What makes such an important and therefore exciting time to be alive, in spite of everything, is that it is precisely out of the stimulus of our doom that our Dharma, the opening of ways of life, can emerge. as the saying goes, may you live in interesting times. So, dear friends, I hope you've enjoyed this wee talk and it's of some use. I'd like to thank my teachers, to my beloved Ty, to my Quaker brother, Alistair McIntosh, and to Joanna Macy, and to all those beings who helped me on the path, including Earth Carers here today. With thanks to everyone for being here, with much love and a lotus to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.